Yep, we're live.
All right. Good morning, students. My name is Seth Finberg, and I'm the Dean of Dhanasar Technical College. And today I have a very special guest. We have Sam Pherwani. Hey, Sam, can you see the screen back there?
Hello,
Yep, there he
everyone.
goes. All right. So today is actually going to be, it's our first episode of Dhanasar Technical College, and it's going to be our first podcast. And today we're actually going to discuss something that probably people have never seen or most likely not even thought about. And that's the behind the scenes discussions when a university or a college wants to hire a researcher or a professor or an instructor. How do we do this? Well, we're giving you kind of a real life example of this. So as the Dean of Dhanasar Technical College, I'd like to hire Sam as an electrical engineering professor at DTC. So how do we do that? Well, Sam, I have to ask you this first question, even though I know you're qualified. Are you eligible to work in the United States?
Ah, well, thank you, Seth. Eligible from a competence perspective, I think I
Hmm.
surely am. But as a Canadian, it can be a bit of a challenge. I have played this little song and dance game with the border officers going to the border with a letter for my TN visa. I used to get accepted a lot easier in the past, but these days they turn me away from the Canadian border, saying no, we got too many people working in the US like you, so we don't need you. So I end up going south of the border. I go to the Mexican border and re-enter. I'll try to stay away from the scary places like Yuma, Arizona, or Juarez. But for the most part, yeah, you're there. You just present your documents there, and I should be good to go for 3, 2, or 1 years, depending upon the officer's discretion. And I can then come and happily teach electrical engineering for you. I'm at Dhanasar College, but that was has been my little bag of tricks that I've been able to pull up thus far. But I think there's better options.
I think there might be. And, I'm obviously, as the Dean of Dhanasar Technical College, I need to learn a little bit more about U.S. immigration law. And I'm not expecting you to be an expert, certainly not. Your expertise is in engineering and electrical safety. But here we need to get a good professor to come to our school. And since our school is in the United States, we got to find some kind of option for you, a visa, green card possibilities. So I was thinking, one option that could work is an H-1B visa. That could be an option because H-1Bs can be for professors, for teachers, for researchers. That would be pretty good. Unfortunately, as a dean, I don't really know a lot about immigration law. I don't really even think about it most of the time. If all the professors we had were American, I wouldn't have to deal with this stuff. But as you know, a lot of the best professors in the world come from all over the world, and such as Canada, such as India, such as England, anywhere. So let's put immigration on hold for a minute. Let's just say, okay, you're going to be teaching electrical safety, electrical engineering here at Dhanasar Technical College. Uh, would you like to teach online or do you want to teach in person? What is your preference here? How would you like to instruct our students?
After COVID, the online teaching kind of became the mainstream way to share knowledge, but I personally find it very unsatisfying to talk to a black screen all day with
Hmm.
circles on it. I mean, there's some people that like it, but when I throw a question, I hide a question in the middle of a lesson, and then I'll say, "Well, what is the answer?" I'll usually get somebody saying, could you repeat the question, please?" So I know they're not exactly paying attention and I don't have the liberty of throwing a chalk at them. So I don't really, um, I cringe when people ask me to teach a class online because I know the message isn't going to get across as effectively, and the retention
Hmm.
of when I discuss these at the end of the semester or the end of the year with a lot of the students, it isn't as satisfying for both parties. So that's something I'm always having to face.
That's a great point. I mean, first of all, at Dhanasar Technical College, I want to encourage our professors to throw anything at our students. Markers, chalk, erasers, cell phones. They got to be paying attention. However, our students are going to be good students. So they're not going to ask dumb questions or silly questions. That's not going to happen here. I'm going to make sure of that. However, they better be paying attention. So you got to be interesting, of course, which I know you will be. But at the same time, the in-person stuff allows them to get, you know, the chancleta thrown at them or whatever can be done. So they will pay attention. Let's talk about electrical safety for a little bit, because a lot of people don't know much about that, don't know why it's important. Why are you going to stress that in your class or classes?
When I was an electrical and instrumentation engineering student myself, we had safety guys, your regular run-of-the-mill corporate EHS guys or industrial hygienists or the generic safety people. And I hated them because I felt they're not subject matter experts and they're always just telling me not to run with scissors. So I said, what's the big deal about electrical safety? I mean, either it's all covered and it's working fine, or if I have to monkey around, I'm just going to turn it off. Simple. What else is there to this science? And I went to work for a German company called Siemens.
Hmm. Yeah, we've
You
heard of them.
might have heard of them.
Certainly, certainly.
Few years ago, and I was appointed as the site service manager. I mean, I've been doing seesaws between industry and academia, and one of them threw this electrical safety compliance book at me and says, "Hey, Pherwani, you're in charge of this electrical safety stuff. Yeah, just make sure we are in compliance with the government and we don't have to deal with this." And I go, it's only 150 pages. How hard can it be? Well, 9 or 10 years later, I'm still learning stuff from it. So there's numerous things that can go wrong. Electric shock that can even jump through the air, higher the voltage, and an arc flash, which is a humongous amount of energy released from high current circuits where the temperature gets 4 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And it
Wow.
will not melt, but vaporize everything instantly in its path and continue to arc until everything in its path is destroyed, or an overcurrent protected device upstream in the circuit goes, oh my God, there's a dead short and everything's arcing. I got to open up. I got to trip. Until such time, it'll continue to cause that miserable explosion. So when these two things were in my face, I changed my perspective, and electrical safety became my next little Rubik's Cube, if you will. I put the engineering aside and started paying attention there.
So, I mean, obviously, engineers, there's as I know it, we've got just several types. You've got the people who do more of the thinking, the experimental side of things, but they're not necessarily out there in the field dealing with the real dangers. So you've got to kind of combine everything, to teach people about the engineering information, the knowledge that they need. But at the same time, we need to produce capable engineers who can go out safely in the field and get the job done, design products, design, aircraft, design cars, design rocket ships, design engines, whatever it could be. And so you're the guy who would be basically talking about all those topics.
The thing that I learned, Seth, is when you pay all that tuition and you come out of a college, Ivy League or any other creeper,
Hmm.
you come out with the message that I can be trained, but I know nothing. The
Boy,
industry
yeah.
experience is what gives you the ability to take all that theoretical stuff and now start put it into practice. And then the safety perspective is how do I not just work, but how do I work safely without incident, which is loss of life, loss of limb, lost work day. People try to fudge that last of the three is when somebody gets hurt. To prevent a lost work day at their facility, they will deploy that person on a clerical job until their injury heals, so that they don't have to report it to the gods of American health and safety. That's OSHA,
Oh yeah,
occupational
you definitely
safety.
want we don't want those OSHA problems. So you're
No,
saying that
yes, sir.
people often get hurt on the job, but they kind of put it under the rug and just give them a desk job for a few days or a few weeks or even a few months until they get better? That happens more often
Yes,
than you think.
it happens more often than you think, and it's a wink, wink, nod, nod. We'll take care of you. We'll give you a few days off, but don't report it against our impeccable 794 lost, days without a lost work day record. Don't taint that for us. To me, that's not the same as murder or stealing,
No,
but as long as there's a lessons learned, there's a near miss or an after investigation of what happened and corrective measures to prevent that kind of thing from happening again, that all kinds of rolls into risk assessments, which is you do pre-job risk assessments, and after the job is done, you do a meeting like you started the day with your toolbox talk with your electricians. At the end of the day, you go, okay, what did we do wrong? What could have been prevented? How can we learn this? What's what's to do different the next day so that we can be safer? Because it is intangible, it becomes so much harder to make an art into a science. Has taken somebody like OSHA 50 years. So they have this vast database. They've been keeping records from the 70s until now of every person that got hurt while working, and to take all that data and to combobulate it into a 150-page book for electrical trades at least, and come up with a set of rules. To me, that was so spectacular to hit upon that book, to see the wisdom of a half a century translated as an art form into real tangible directives that you can put into place.
well, that's actually pretty interesting to have the thought of all of these accidents documented in some book or index. But then you think about at the same time how many other accidents and incidents were not disclosed that they don't know about, and there's no way to really accurately measure that. But I do think it would be funny, like at Dhanasar Technical College right now, we've gone to 3 days without any incidents. That's pretty good. So maybe we should have some kind of counter or tracker every day. We add to that, and hopefully we can reach 10, 20, maybe even 50 days without an on-site incident at our school. That would be impressive, and I would be very proud to have that continue. So you've given me some inspiration to have that going on. But at the same time, yeah, if we don't report them, then we can just keep our clock going up, and then we're at 200 days, and then we're at 5 years, and never a problem, correct?
Yeah, I'd love to be part of that engine. And, the H-1B, I know when I went to work in Texas many years ago, I was on this TN, a monkey dance with the borders until the company finally decided this guy knows a substantial amount of our system installed base of electrical motors, pumps, switch gear, breakers, the medium voltage metal clad switch gear, the mains transformer coming into the yard, to now where we feel he is of some significant value to the company. So let's pay our lawyers to get him on this H-1B path. But I did find that H-1B quotas take forever, and sometimes economies change, worlds change, and they'll abandon that effort just because they didn't see this economic downturn coming, or they decided to outsource their entire manufacturing to Asia somewhere, and they say, well, yes, we started with good intentions, but the cycle was, the book was longer than the movie, so, well, sorry, but tough
Usually
luck.
is. Yeah, the best. We've got to cut this down into 2 hours. How are we going to get this done? You bring up a good point also about the H-1B visa and the lottery, which I know there's some sort of lottery that they only have so many visas that they can even give, and you've got to win this lottery. So, you had me thinking. I'm a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, or some people call that D&D, and it's all about chance, random events, and we've got a giant D20 here, right there. So
Woohoo!
if we would roll for your chances, some people would say that I've heard that the H-1B lottery this year had about a 20% chance of selection. So let's say there's 20 sides to this die. So selection would be 1 through 5. So if you roll a 1 through 5, you're getting selected. But if you roll a 6 through 20, you are not. So let's see what happens. And you've got a 10. So no, you didn't get it. All right. So darn H-1B lottery. So okay, so let's move on to something else then. What are the other options? You mentioned a TN, and that would be, only for really Canadians or Mexicans as well. It's a NAFTA visa, but you mentioned all the annoying things of going over the border, and that's having to check in with the US every time. That's a no-go. We don't want that. So as a university or as a college, maybe we could sponsor you for something, some other, maybe a green card. What do you know
Oh,
about that?
so what I heard, a little birdie told me, well, a good lawyer who whispered in the ear of that little birdie to begin with,
Hmm.
is that I'm out of luck in that category because I was not born in Tuvalu or Namibia or Equatorial Guinea. If I were a product of one of these countries, the green card would be very easy. But if you're born in China, India, or any of the countries where, strangely, technology and education is more mature than Tuvalu, you stand a lower chance of getting this lottery. So I would really like in my next lifetime to open a brilliant, kick-ass version of a Dhanasar College in Tuvalu,
Hmm.
hoping that the sea levels don't rise and submerge it by that time.
Yeah, that's another thing. We don't want to build a new campus on an island nation and then within 7 years have it all be flooded out. We haven't even paid it off yet.
Oh,
No,
so
that would be
yeah.
an unpleasant situation. But yeah, I mean, I think you are bringing up the possibility. The problem, if you're from India or China, I've heard that those visa backlogs are really long. The green card waiting time can be years, if not a decade or two sometimes. And I don't want you sitting in India or sitting in China or somewhere else just waiting to start working here. We need you to get here sooner. Um, but then it came to my attention, there's this EB1 thing. It's like an EB1A. It's for extraordinary ability people. And maybe we could look into that path for you. I mean, what I've heard is it's almost like something like a self petition. So it's like do it yourself. Like I don't even have to waste my time or money. You just take care of it. Does that sound right?
There is I have looked into this EB1A route, and it's a two-edged sword.
Okay.
EB1A works well for people who are not late bloomers in their lives, and I'll tell you why. People um, like Elon Musk, or um, people who dropped out, or like the Apple guy, what's his name?
Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs.
Mitch.
They dropped out of school because early in their life, they saw the light. They were so clairvoyant. They go, I don't need this. I can win the race without having to listen to these people who are slower thinkers than I am. And they went out from their garage and started making products which were then bought out by other bigger companies who weren't as smart, and then they became famous and rich and walked their way into the sunset. But if you're somebody like me who went to school and struggled in school, even dropped out, went to work as a technician, came back again and then finished and then got another degree and then got another degree later, but was working as you were doing so because of either tuition being expensive or your own economic situation, or the fact that you didn't have your thoughts all together when you were a kid. You don't have the gold-plated resume to display to customs and immigration that I'm a Harvard graduate and I went to Oxford and Stanford, and I am ready to come in and improve your economy and sprinkle pixie dust and turn America into the land of gold again. So
Well, if you can do that,
somebody,
that's perfect. We want you to do that right away.
but
But
here's the
realistically, yeah, you probably can't do that. So
yeah, but the value that somebody like me offers is I've gathered so much momentum over time is it took my hair to get gray. Actually, I had to color my hair before coming into this class today so that I'd look younger for your interview, so you wouldn't you wouldn't secretly discriminate me on age. Oops, I shouldn't have
Oh, we don't
said that.
secretly
Sorry.
discriminate. We openly discriminate here, of course. Um, we want to keep it full disclosure on
But
everything. But
yeah,
yeah,
but
you're
for
right though. If I mean, forgetting immigration for a minute, but professors sometimes, if they're a little bit older, unless they're incredibly famous, might have a harder time because we want to lock you in for many, many years. Just like if you were a football player and, do we want to sign a 35-year-old quarterback or a 24-year-old quarterback? We're going to go for the 24-year-old guy every time. But that doesn't mean the 35-year-old guy doesn't have a lot more of knowledge and experience to bring to the table. And he's a winner. And you're
I
obviously a winner.
had
That's why we want you.
yeah. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, the I didn't know that I had this quality, but one of my mentors, Jim White, God bless his soul, he told me, Sam, there's two kinds of people. There's players who think fast, and then there's coaches who think deep. You come across to me as the latter. So that's where your calling is. And I didn't know that about myself. Uh, so I ended up being one of those people who said, "Look, Ma, no hands," with a streak of gray in my hair. But that being said, I've accumulated a lot um, of achievements in terms of projects and certificates and licenses to teach and to uh, audit uh, electrical instrumentation, and now even in the direction of aviation, like you said. But those are all coming in the sunset years of my life, and maybe there's a perspective or an empathy angle from the blind system that does not is not supposed to do so, and say, oh, this guy has really got his act together towards these years of his life. And yes, we now do feel this guy is a AB1A candidate. And even though he's old, he can climb K2 North Face now.
Well, I like that. I mean, and even as a dean of a university or a college, I actually kind of like that golden range of professors who are a little bit more advanced in their years. And here's why. They're not going to leave 2 years now, 2 years down the line for another job. You want to settle in, you want to teach students at Dhanasar, you want to finish your career here. And I'm much more comfortable offering someone like that. I mean, I looked at your CV and your resume and all your stuff, and it was like this. I was like, what is all this stuff? And then I look at, everything. And so when we want to hire someone, we want someone that obviously has a good feel for the subject matter, has a good ability to present the material to our students, and someone who gets along with the other faculty. You know, if you can't get
That's
along with your
important.
colleagues, it's not going to work too well. But I don't see that as a problem here. We're only allowed to fight on Fridays, so you can fight with your colleagues here at Dhanasar every Friday. It's just all out. So you either show up on Friday and fight, or just don't show up. But the other 4 days, it's going to be civil,
Yeah.
it's going to be professional, and it's going to be great. So you obviously pick your schedule, whatever works for you.
As long as I get to go out with the faculty and play laser tag, and that's when I'll take out all my frustrations.
Oh yeah, no, we're not saying the fights have to be, physical fights. They can be an online game. They can be laser tag. Yeah, they can be a game of cards, video games, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd
you
like
can
to do
you can
that.
do axe throwing, like whatever works. Who
Because
has the hardest?
frustration.
You're Canadian. Who has the hardest slap shot? Let's go. You know.
Yeah, because frustrations do build up over time and they'll tend to come out. So if you're playing Dragons and Dungeons, or you're laser tagging someone, or you're going to the bowling alley, there's with beer and fries, it's a healthy way to let out some of that built up angst in one way or the other.
Well, actually, yes, some of the even the immigration attorneys I know, when they get frustrated with their cases, I mean, they'll take it out on some innocent sporting equipment. You know, you'll see a soccer ball that literally gets torn to shreds, or some unfortunate cleats that no longer have cleats. They just are back to being shoes again. Because what happened? They were running their heart out on those things. But yeah, when work is tough, you need some ways to unwind, and that's actually a very important part of life too. And at school with our students, we want to make sure our students have fun outside the classroom. They're here to work. They're here to learn. We know that, but they need to be well-rounded. They need to be in activities. They need to be able to prepare for life. And we don't want just boring graduates who know one thing and nothing else.
Well, the other thing that I thought from a location perspective, quite inviting was being Canadian and liking hockey. I wouldn't want to go to a place that didn't have a good hockey team, but the fact that you have the Panthers there it doesn't hurt at all.
It's a good sell. Yeah, winning a Stanley Cup does some wonders for you. Even like the University of Georgia, now they've won two out of the last three national championships. Should have been three straight national championships, but that's a discussion for another day. It does attract students. It does attract faculty. Who doesn't want to show up to a school that, every Saturday there's a party, there's a football game. Or for hockey, yeah, you can just go down the street and check out an awesome game. And then, we got NASA's not far away from here, a couple hours to the north. And you, my friend, I believe, have some experience with NASA. So tell us about that.
Yes, this happened quite by chance. After the Siemens gig, I went on to work for Berkeley Lab. That's Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in California for a 1 year stint. And that, strangely enough, was on a business visa. So
Hmm.
somehow the company I that had tendered this job to get an electrical instructor, inspector, and educator, had a business relationship with the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, which is the mecca of Nobel Prizes. 13 Nobel Prizes have come from there. And
Wow.
they had enough clout to where they could get me under their umbrella on a business visa. And I mean, I went in not as an individual, but as a business, my own company. And it was beautiful, but unfortunately, it didn't last too long. The Berkeley contract was to build a simulator for scientists to demonstrate that they could build their crazy mad experiments without hurting themselves or anybody else. Once that was built, they said, your contract's done, but let's see what else we can find you. They were in the government contracts, and they said, well, the Armstrong Flight Research Center in the Mojave Desert is looking for a DC arc flash class. Do you know anything about this? And this is 10 years ago. No, even further away, maybe. Yeah.
When you say arc, that's the thing you were
So
talking about earlier.
yes,
Uh,
the arc flash that comes
mhm.
out of AC circuits. Now, primarily the three-phase feed that comes into your building, it comes in from the utility company like Florida Power and Light. For example, it comes in as 100,000 volts, 138 kV or 262. Those are standard feeds that get stepped down into 4160 or 5 kV. So every time you step down the voltage, and then it further comes down to 480 volts into the big industrial facility. Every time you lower the voltage, the current starts to go up. And it's that current. You're supplying 1,000 amps, 2,000 amps to each of these huge pumps, motors, and the large factory floors that are making stuff or processing fluids or uh, lifting cranes. So if your nominal current is 2,000 amps and you have a short, you're going to have 30,000, 40, 50, 60,000 amps. And that's the huge arc flash. But that is uncommon for DC because DC, um,
Direct current, you're saying, yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes, a direct current is typically not used for power as alternating current is. You don't have DC feeds, although that is starting to change in some places in the world. Like the Siemens job was to build a DC transmission line. We in North America should have had more of them, but we don't have as many. That's a story for another day. But NASA at that time was trying to build electric planes, and they wanted to put a 460 volt DC network of batteries into the fuselage of an aircraft. So all of a sudden now your average aircraft technician has to be a qualified electrical worker because they can get a not just a shock with 460 DC, but the amount of energy those batteries store. I mean, if you took a like a regular car or a truck battery and you put a wrench between the plus minus, you're not going to
Yeah.
get a huge arc flash, but it will
Right.
fuse. It will melt and fuse, turn red hot. So if you had a whole array of these in an aircraft fuselage for, I mean, those were military aircraft. They had old Northrop Grumman and the old bombers fighters, but just empty shells. They were trying to replace the engines with electric motors and run them off
Huh.
these yeah
So you could
um,
charge an aircraft and actually
this DC
fly it on
power.
battery power?
That's what they were trying to do. So they needed a boring person like me to come and teach them safety compliance so as to not hurt themselves.
Yeah, well,
So
that makes
that's
sense.
where I got the chance. But being Canadian, this process was started 3 months in advance where I had to get clearance from the Air Force and from NASA so that I could because you first enter the Air Force Base, Mojave Air Force Base, and then you have to enter the NASA facility, and there's multiple clearances. So that was, yeah, high point for me, but it was only a week. It was, yeah, but that was a nice class.
Well, that's 7 more days than I've taught at NASA, so that's pretty nice.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
and,
you.
and maybe we can get you something down the line. We'd love to see if we can get a partnership with NASA. We've got some very impressive students and in faculty here at Dhanasar, and that would be amazing to get that done. If not now, we could propose it as well. But certainly, we're all about innovation here. STEM. You hear about STEM. I don't know if you know what that means. That's science, technology, E and M. I'm not even sure what those stand for, but I think E might be engineering, might be your thing. But yeah, that's kind of the growth of this country and the world. We need folks who can do that stuff, and that's what Dhanasar is about. We want to have a very strong STEM program. I'm here to sell the program, but I also have to learn about the program at the same time. I've got to hire faculty, got to get students, got to raise money. And that's not even talking about our sports teams. We got to get our sports teams in line too. So we got to get that hockey team going. So maybe you could help out there.
Yes. Anything that would, I think we are truly all citizens of planet Earth, and as long
Hmm.
as we can enrich each other's lives, those arbitrarily drawn lines of this is your country and this is mine, our efforts should transcend those lines to where the people that police and govern them. I'm not saying they're not required or they're not essential. They absolutely are, but they see the merit in moving people like pawns in a chess game for the greater good of mankind. And I'd like to think that my efforts thus far should contribute to somebody picking me up from a spot and putting me at another spot where they feel I'm a little more effective.
Well, yeah, we want that. I mean, as a citizen of the state, a citizen of the country, a citizen of the world, you can even go space law. We can talk about, citizen of the galaxy, citizen of the universe, how far citizen of other universes, assuming they exist, they may or may not. That's up for debate. That's more in the theoretical physics department, and we'll have to cover that at another time. But yeah, it's always just interesting to think about how much of an impact and a difference you make on the small, micro scale to the big macro scale. And if you can make a difference in one student's life, that's an impressive accomplishment. And then you just multiply that exponentially by everyone you're able to impact, educate, mentor, and influence. We want all that. And that's what we're here to do. So I think you're a great candidate for this. So we obviously have to find a way to get you work, the current visa status that you need and the eventually the green card that you need. We don't want people at Dhanasar working on these visitor visas that I hear some other schools do. Not a good idea. Um, but yeah, that's definitely worth discussing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I wish it was in person. Next time it will be. And do you have any questions for us over here?
No, I would be very excited to come in and say hello to the rest of the facility and, get a tour around. And like you say, making a difference in these students' lives the paycheck is only the gravy. It would be an awesome opportunity and an honor.
That's what we're all about. Yeah, paycheck is a good thing to have. Assuming our checks don't bounce, we can take care of you on a semi to full regular basis. I think you'll
Well,
be all right there. So yeah, and
yeah,
if they do bounce, you just catch the check and then try again. Try the next one. Try the next
there
one.
you go.
That's how
Yeah,
we got to make it roll here.
yeah, we'll balance the work, the sports, the finance, and the life and the afterlife all together. I guess that's what it's all about.
Yeah, no, it's about a balance. It's about I want the students to be able to get to know their professors and really learn from them, not in just this boring 40-minute, 45, 60-minute lecture, but the opportunity to have, lab time and to have, we used to call them field trips in school, but, go to a place like NASA or SpaceX or, go to overseas to somewhere like Siemens or Airbus or back here on the aviation side to like Boeing. And there's all kinds of places you can check out and learn from and see how things are done and then try to innovate, try to make things faster and better, safer, more affordable, and more environmentally conscious, all those things.
Yes, with the industry connections I have had, there is venues that we can arrange these field trips for newer directions in STEM, like you say, for example, sustainable aviation fuel. That's
Yes, I was actually gonna ask about that.
green,
The
yeah,
SAF,
green
yeah.
fuel. There's a company we're currently working with who has signed up with United, and also you might have heard of Boom Supersonic. They're trying to replace the Concorde. They've done a few test flights, but they're all at subsonic speeds. And their next test flight to Hawaii is the upcoming scheduled soon. And each time they fly, they're increasing their speed and they're testing every function of their supersonic plane. So yes, to not just having people read out of a book, out of some prescribed curricula, but to go out there and see every day what's changing in the world so that when they come back, they have this well-rounded view after they graduate or even while they are knowing which way the world's going and which way they'd like to orient themselves to influence that world.
Well, we have to show them, what's out there, what can be done, what can be seen, what can be felt, what can be experienced. And, we obviously we talk about the classroom experience, but learning about something like this new Concorde, and yeah, even if it's one of those boring subsonic planes that only flies at 690 miles per hour, that's still going to be okay. But eventually, if they can break the sound barrier again and then do it in a more environmentally friendly way, that's what we want to see. But I have one more question for you, and this is a deep question, as you mentioned earlier that you were accused of being a deep thinker, which is always a dangerous accusation. But I was talking to some of my friends and colleagues about space. How are we ever going to get to Mars? And the thing is, we got to get there quickly. Mars is super far away. Mars is several years away at a minimum just to get there at any type of realistic speed. And then you talk about the amount of fuel it would take to get there, forgetting sustaining life along the way and for the return back. But wouldn't you love to try to work on the engineering side with people who could eventually plan our trip to Mars?
I have thought about this and I do not share the enthusiasm of the likes of those who think that we ought to be reaching and trying to colonize there. One is because of the distance, and second,
Sure.
the lack of atmosphere, and we don't have warp technology, for the lack of a better word, which is to fly
Yeah.
at anything faster. I mean, the space shuttle, when it enters the Earth's atmosphere, is at 18,000 miles per hour. We're that's just reaching, it's going with the Earth's own forces without an engine, and we're barely trying to keep it from burning up. The We are far away from reaching those speeds. I am more of the type that, look, we've got one little home, this little blue-green planet. Let's focus our efforts on cleaning and sustaining this little one than keeping it half broken and looking
Mm.
at our neighbor's mansion, which doesn't even have oxygen. So that's my take. Is
Yeah,
like,
well, oxygen's
charity
overrated.
begins at home.
We just want the flashy new object, and we want to get to Mars. But you're right. I mean,
Yes.
solve the problems here first. Uh, it's everyone wants to add this or that, but let's fix our own home and then worry about the other stuff later. But it's also maybe possible to do both. Focus on now, but at the same time, always save a little bit for the future.
Well, if somebody can demonstrate to me, see, we've got the Top Gun, the new Top Gun movie alluded to this Dark Star
Oh, that was fun. I
technology,
remember that. Yeah.
which actually is viable, which is you have a turbojet engine that will then kick in a ramjet engine and then will activate the scramjet. So you have three different phases of going faster until you reach Mach 10. But that is actually possible because we have the technology. But to package it all together so that the three stages kick in at the right uh, phase without causing any major catastrophic failure in your risk assessments is another story with just viable technology. But to this day, I have not seen any technology that can get us near speed of light. We have to have escape velocity to leave the Earth's atmosphere to get to the stratosphere, and then go on with a uh, a solar fuel and somehow I mean, like solar panels, which will fuel the aircraft, and somehow get to another planet, and then start over with an atmosphere that doesn't exist. To me, that's a very tall order. We're not ready yet. We have a three body problem. It's
Oh, I know that too. Yeah. That's a
it is I think we need a lot of homework prior.
I
It's
thought of another
nice.
three body problem though is the USCIS. We've got the university here, we've got the potential faculty member, and then we've got the USCIS, and they all have to work together. Just like that three body problem, we've got this three body problem.
So I'm a bit of a realist in there. When I think deeper, I feel not happening in my lifetime. Not happening in. I look at the little kids that I interact with. I doubt if it's happening in their lifetime either. We've
Well, it may
got to
not.
have.
Not everything have. You just look at what you want to do. But again, here at Dhanasar, I don't care about surviving in Mars. I just want to get there because we can just be like, our school got to Mars. We won. Don't worry
The
about coming back.
important
Don't worry about surviving. Just get there.
the important thing is I would like to stand corrected. Show me
Mm,
somebody that can change my mind, and I will become a fan. And I will become the good thing about being a teacher is you're a perpetual student. I want to
yes.
learn from my students.
Yeah,
And if
and you learn
I'm
from your colleagues too. I mean, I love those disagreements among the faculty when they're discussing things, and keep it civil, keep it clean, keep it professional. But a good, honest discussion is very healthy.
yes, but I would the day I stand corrected about something is the day I learned something. Otherwise, it was just my opinion and my own voice, which doesn't mean anything, right? It's just
Yeah, but there's also
me
too many
saying,
people in academia that are unwilling to listen to other people. They're so fixed and dangerously fixed on their ways. It's not what I want to see here. I want to see people of all types, very open discourse. And then of course we've got our Friday fight. So if you got to take it out in the field, that's where you go. You
there you
drop the
go.
gloves and you go. You know,
That's right.
you
That's what
can't
it's
work it
all
out.
about. Yep.
I don't know if you know this, but a little bit of hockey history. One of the reasons they allow fighting in hockey is not just so the fans can have something to cheer for, but the officials often didn't see everything, couldn't possibly police the product on the ice, so the players had to take care of it. So if you took a cheap shot at somebody, the fight was coming because you had to send a message to the other team, don't do that. You know, we like to say F around and find out, but you're going to find out if you do too much of that stuff.
Yes.
So every once
Yes.
in a while, a little
Yes.
healthy, scripted fighting under control is not always the worst thing. I kid, of course, we're not comparing hockey to to college, but in some ways, the way some universities have been acting these days, it almost is that way, and we maybe need a little bit of some healthy competition. So I don't mind
Yes.
seeing all of that.
No, you do need that edge. My wife is a beautician and a yoga teacher now, and she's all about peace and Zen and do not retaliate. And she says, "What about all this ancient wisdom that I keep telling you, and why are you, sometimes animated, argumentative? Uh, Listen to my ancient arts that I practice." I say, uh, think about one of these arts, which I like to think about, Bushido, the Japanese dictum of live by the sword, die by the sword.
Mhm.
There's honor in conflict. Um,
No, there is. I mean, and it's also you have to. There's times not to fight, and then there's times to fight. But you do it in a certain. You got to show respect. You always have to show respect.
yes, yes,
Uh,
yes, yes. Yes. You have to do it with honor. So yes, yes, yes.
yeah, and
So
and we everyone needs to have honor. We need to have honor here. And I loved in school arguing with my classmates. I would even pick positions I didn't agree with just to argue, just to get a
yes,
chance. Same thing with
it
the
is.
professor.
It is intellectual stimulation, and it uh, is memorizing without having to memorize. I love that part. It makes the day vivid. It makes it distinct from another eat, sleep, work days, those that fuse into nothing with no recollection of. If you had a bright spot as you stood out, or you made a point, or you stood your ground, or you had to give in, you actually remember those moments in time.
I think we need the fourth part of that eat, pray, love. You can have eat, pray, love, debate, or eat, pray, love, argue. There needs to be a
Eat,
little bit
pray,
of that
love,
there.
fight. Eat,
Fight
pray,
as
love,
next level
fight.
too. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we need an option to discuss things. One thing I wanted to point out that I had one of my law professors at Georgia was fantastic. He actually clerked for the U.S. Supreme Court. Professor Coonan with this very thick Wisconsin accent, which I cannot easily duplicate. But he would, if you made a point in class, even if it was a very good point, he would interrupt you and then say, argue against yourself. And he didn't always do it, but when he did, you had to literally stop on a dime, think for 10, 15 seconds, and then come up with the exact opposite of the original argument you had. And we're talking on constitutional cases, so this was not
I
easy.
love that. I love that.
But maybe, in your class with electrical safety or with some type of electrical engineering, someone makes a great valid point, and then you just cut them mid-sentence and say, okay, tell us why
I
you're wrong. See if they can go the other way on
I
it.
I failed in those when I was younger, and I remember those moments of failure, and I pick myself up and I go, this is one less way I will get trapped going forward. Maybe they'll find another kink in my armor, but not this one, not again.
No, yeah, just be ready, be ready. All right, Sam. Well, this has been great. Great opportunity to talk and mix things up a little bit. And let's chat again soon, and hopefully we can get you started, working when classes resume.
Well, thank you, Dean. I appreciate it, and I have faith in the American legal system because I feel I have more than one mother. There was the one mother, the country that gave birth to me. There was the other country, Canada, who gave me my identity, and I feel America is that one mother that gave me my livelihood. So, I feel great. A great sense of belonging and responsibility and patriotism to a country that I, I don't belong to on paper, but I do belong to in my heart.
All right. Well, let's make it so it's paper and heart together.
Okay. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much, Seth. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, Dean Finberg.
No problem at all. All right. We'd
Okay,
love
bye.
to hear you. Love to see you
Yeah.
soon at Dhanasar Tech. All right. Take
Okay.
care,
Yeah,
Sam.
bye-bye.
All
Thank
right.
you.